The Las Vegas Raiders have a new wide receiver for their future number 1 overall pick. Yes, it's Jalen Nailor, the wide receiver 3 in Minnesota, and he's the wide receiver question mark here with the Las Vegas Raiders. Just overall, this contract is an interesting one. 3 years, $35 million, $23 million guaranteed. You and I were just trying to talk and slot this. It's a little bit more than De'Ami Brown and Tutu Atwell, 1 year, $10 million last year.
Yikes.
A little bit ahead of Josh Palmer, but just behind some other names like Darius Slayton and Rashad Bateman. Your thoughts?
Do those comps get you guys fired up over there in Raiders land? This is kind of that area where money can sometimes disintegrate in the wide receiver landscape. I do have some optimism for Jalen Nailor, though. I did watch him. He makes most of his snaps come from the slot, and I do think that's where he's best utilized. But he does have a little bit of a vertical element to his game. Like, he beat Marlon Humphrey on like a big wheel route near the sideline. There's a couple of just like down the field shots to him. And then even in the red area, he's got a little bit of a wiggle to him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Nailor has his best statistical season as a Raider, just because he's going up the pecking order there. But I do think that he has like a decent amount of like athletic wiggleness to his game. Not like super polished quite yet. But I do wonder if the Raiders are trying to find a player that has been ascending every single year. And I think that's exactly what Nailor's been doing.
Yeah, we recorded our free agency preview video, the top 10 players each position, about 2 months ago. And I tossed out Jalen Nailor's name. I mean, he's a fun watch. I think arguably, other than Justin Jefferson, he was more consistent than Jordan Addison last year for the Minnesota Vikings. He's where he's supposed to be at all times. And his best stuff were kind of these like big benders to the sideline. And like you said, he was being placed in motion, either in stacks or on the move and given these free releases. I'm not going to call him a burner, but at the same time, I do think he made some really difficult catches on tight window targets on top of it. Like you said, hopefully an ascending player here, but just to outline the pass catchers here for the Las Vegas Raiders. At tight end, obviously Brock Bowers. The wide receiver room, Jalen Nailor, Jack Besh, Trey Tucker, Dante Thornton. We know what Clint Kubiak wants to do in terms of being a downfield, vertical, play action passer. Do any of those guys do that for you?
Well, all those guys are kind of like probably best in the slot. I thought Besh was best in the slot. Nailor's best in the slot. That's what Brock Bowers is. He's a slot wide receiver in the NFL. Trey Tucker has some slot potential as well. So they still don't have that like X receiver, that we're going for to kind of really tie this room together. I think all of those guys can do like some downfield work. But for the most part, I do think this is kind of a similar skill set and different body types up and down the roster. Like, they do not have like a big physical wide receiver yet on the roster now. Like, obviously Brock Bowers is like really approaching wide receiver at this point, but it's just a little one of these rooms where I'm like, man, this is like kind of that inside outside body type. And I'm still looking for that X receiver to kind of show up. So maybe they find one in the draft. There's not going to be one in free agency. I did think like Romeo Doubs would be a fit for the Raiders, but they went elsewhere with a very similar body type to what I already thought was on the roster.
Yeah, they do have pick 1, obviously, Fernando Mendoza. Pick 14, maybe have a choice of a number of wide receivers at that position, and 36 on top of it. To your point, we know what Brock Bowers is. You either run 12 personnel or he's going to be better than your slot wide receiver. Again, Jalen Nailor, I'm not saying that he is only this, but he did have 60% of his pass snaps out of the slot last season. He's just like a dirty work player for me. And I kind of think the Raiders needed a dirty work player. Like, I'm sure Jack Besh was kind of drafted as that. Again, started his career at LSU.
It didn't look right.
And then this past year, again, what does he bring you? Like, Jack Besh was a fun prospect. This fit never made sense for me with Brock Bowers already there.
He's a big slot. He's a big slot.
And I already wonder if, like, is this just going to be one of those players that after year 2, is he dealt to another team to play this role? Because he's not replacing Brock Bowers in that spot. And then you've just, with a new head coach and, a new brain trust involved, replaced him with the draft pick being in the 2nd round last year.
Yeah, and I think that Trey Tucker was doing a lot of the things that their 4th round pick was supposed to be doing as well. So it's just one of these. Maybe it's just like looking at the roster and be like, we whiffed. Like, let's not like double down on these whiffs. Like, we have to just go find replacements over them. And that's kind of what this offseason is going to be for the Raiders. And there was a quote from Spytech kind of acknowledging that, like, hey, like, we need to get real about what's on our roster right now. And I do wonder if the wide receiver positions be like, all right, Besh, Thornton is just not going to work out for those guys. So we do have to just straight up replace them right away.
The Raiders did go nuclear on the first day of free agency.
They did.
On offense, we just talked about Jalen Nailor. They reset the center market with Tyler Linderbaum, 3 years, $81 million. Anything you want to say about that before I go to the defensive name?
Just the context on Linderbaum, the current before today, it was at $18 million. That was the number one center, Creed Humphrey, and then he goes to $27 million. That's a huge jump there. The Raiders did have all the money in the world. To me, it's going to help the run game with Linderbaum. He can get out in space. And he's also been, helping protections for Lamar Jackson. So getting a veteran center rather than somebody that's been like flipping between guard and center and Jackson Powers Johnson. I think that will probably help Fernando Mendoza. So if a team was going to fully reset the market at center, I do think the Raiders being the team does make some sense.
You re-sign Eric Stokes at corner, re-sign Malcolm Kuntz, trade a late rounder for Bill's slot corner, Teron Johnson. Mm-hmm. Then you bring in 2 new starting linebackers in Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, and then edge rusher in Kwity Paye. So they wanted to spend this money quickly.
Yes.
We'll see.
Yeah. Both the linebackers are Georgia Bulldogs. That's kind of interesting. I think Kuntz was a good re-signing for them. I think same thing with Stokes. The defense is better. Now, they have to replace Max Crosby, which is going to take a long time. So the defensive line, to me, still has a lot of warts with it. The defensive tackle, they don't have a defensive tackle. They've been looking for a defensive tackle since Christian Wilkins was doing whatever the hell he was doing in the locker room. So, yeah, that's going to be the long-term wart on this team is now it's the defensive line.
On offense, you have to fix the offensive line. They definitely did that at the anchor position with Tyler Linderbaum, but then you could argue that Jackson Powers Johnson was better at center, and then they're sticking him at right guard. The left guard stuff just did not work at all. They didn't want to play their young guys and like Caleb Rogers at all, and just elected to go with retreads at that position. So look, a quarterback can come in and change things quickly within a year or two. I just don't think that maybe the most exciting downfield wide receiver on this team is on the roster as of yet. And if they do find him as like a true X, either in the draft or some other way, I could see a pass catching group of that guy and Jalen Nailor, and then obviously Brock Bowers being like the pivotal trio of the pass catchers. And then we get back to the role players being Jack Besh and Trey Tucker versus having to rely on those guys as our starting outside wide receivers. And by the way, Tyler Lockett doing that last year. Absurd.
Tyler Lockett was playing ahead of these rookies that we keep naming. He went in there and he was starting ahead of them. That was like never a good sign. Yeah. This is the team that needs to make sure to tell every other team that Carnell Tate's 40-yard dash was actually 4.6 seconds and not the 4.4s that have been flowing out there. Because if he can fall to like 14th overall, that would be a massive win. I just wouldn't, bank on that happening.
Okay. Can we truly live in fantasy land for one moment?
Of course.
How about the Raiders send pick 36 and 102 for Brian Thomas Jr.?
Brian Thomas, yeah, sign me up for that. Yeah, and it's 8 minutes into a Jalen Nailor free agency video. We can do whatever the hell we want at this point.
All right, we'll get out of here then. Thanks for watching. We have 10 other videos here on the channel just reacting to trades and free agency today. We'll be back the next couple of days, so lock in, hit that subscribe button, and we'll check you on the next one.